Hi, everyone, and welcome to another one of our fabulous Geek Talks with myself, your host, James Denny. I'm the COO here at Sales Geek, and I'm in the sunny climate that is Blackburn in the UK. And I'm joined by a few of my colleagues today, and we're going to have a little chat about what it means to have life as a geek. So, who's with me today? And I'm going to talk about them, or they're going to talk about themselves, and then we'll get into the meat and bones of everything that we want to cover today. And if you have any questions, things that you want to post, then you are welcome to type live. And if you're watching live, then we can handle your questions live. If not, you can reach out to any of the team afterwards, and we'll be delighted to get back to you. So as you can see on the screen there, today's chat is about the life of a sales geek. And I'm joined by, well, you'll see 4 faces on there, and then you'll be looking, hang on a second, we're missing one. And we are missing one because he's currently on the journey to take the little ins to school. So hopefully Ben will join us in a moment. But I'm joined by Jay Light from Texas. I'm joined from Brian Ewing, who's out in Colorado. And I'm joined by Becky Lewis, who's also here in the UK head office. So you get the gist of who's around. So I'm going to let the guys introduce themselves, talk a little bit about their background, where they've come from, and then we'll get into everything we want to talk about today. So let's start with... I'm not sure, do we go with youngest? Do we go with prettiest? So we'll go with prettiest. So Brian, tell us all about...
God bless you, James. God bless you.
There you go. I'm here for you, man.
So good afternoon to James. Good morning to the U.S. People that are joining. My name is Brian Ewing. I've been with Sales Geek for about 18 months now. I came on in July of 2024. Prior to my time with Sales Geek, I was 30 plus years sales executive, 17 years at Black & Decker, worked with a lot of startups for about a decade here in the Denver tech market, which has been really exciting. Ran sales and marketing for a technology company called OtterBox, which does the protective cases for cell phones. So I've had a real kind of interesting background, and we'll get into it, but I was just looking for a change, looking to go out and do my own thing.
Very good. Thank you for that, Brian. And second prettiest on the call, Jay.
Oh, well, that's flattering. I'll take it. Take what I can get. Yeah, good. Well, welcome everybody. Appreciate you taking time to spend some time with us today. So my background is probably similar to Brian's in some ways. I spent as a builder's brat, grew up in the small business world, and then probably the first 5 years of my career, I was running doing work in different small businesses. And then at mid-20s, I went to Dell and spent 20 plus years in the high tech industry, in sales, leading teams, pretty much doing everything there, and had about 17 different roles in those 23 years. Left Dell, went to some startup time, spent a couple years there building out a commercial sales organization for about a $30 million company in that space that was scaling. And then spent some more time in the tech world and really just wanted to get into doing something for myself. And I'm sure we'll have lots more questions about that later. But the return to small business is for me what it's really about. That's probably the arc of the story for me.
Thank you very much. And then I'll go with the cheekiest on the call, and that'll be Becky. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Hi. So mine's nowhere near as interested as yours too, but I'll give a bit of a background. So mine, mainly, to be honest, I started my career out in construction, working in the offices, like coordinating all of the sites that we were building. I then took a massive U-turn and went into working in recruitment, like niche tech recruitment. And then from there went to internal, and then now I'm here working at Sales Geek and have been for the past 6 months.
6 months, yeah. Seems like a lot.
Long. I know it's flown, but it feels like ages at the same time.
It does feel like ages.
Yeah.
So Becky's here. For anyone that has any questions and queries, if you think that life of a geek is maybe something you want to think about, and I suppose part of the topic of today's conversation, I want to introduce my late arrival today in just 1 second. It's about maybe things about 2026, right? 2026 and 2027 are going to be interesting years from an economic standpoint and from a carve your own life standpoint. So maybe this is something for you ready for next year. But he arrived better late than never, and it's good to see him. So Ben, I'm going to put you straight into it, I'm afraid. Everyone's just done a very brief introduction. So you can just tell the audience your name, obviously, whereabouts you are, and a little bit brief of your background so that people might look at that and reflect, yeah, I can kind of see me there somewhere.
Yeah, thanks, James. The joys of being a sales geek is you have the flexibility in your schedule and time to be able to spend with your family. So that includes driving my son to school Unfortunately, sometimes the traffic does not agree with the timeline that you try to have. So apologies for being a little bit late here. But I am Ben Kenning. I'm based in Denver, Colorado. Been with Sales Geek for over a year now. And prior to joining Sales Geek, my background has been both as sales leader and operations leader for some large companies. So prior to joining Sales Geek, I've been head of sales enablement for companies like EF Education. I've been a sales director at Wells Fargo Bank, head of sales enablement for Western Union, and more recently, I've also led global operations, and wanted to join Sales Geek for a few reasons. A couple of things that stood out to me is working in sales is way more fun than operations. So giving an opportunity to help businesses grow revenue is way more exciting than operational efficiency. So being able to do that, and started my career in corporate banking. So working with businesses size 2 to 20 million in revenue. And I just really loved working with businesses of that size. So really kind of combining my sales experience and my love of small business was a great opportunity to join this organization.
Very good. Thank you. I like that. So I've got a number of questions. Before we get into it, I'll just set the frame for who Sales Geek are in case any of you are watching and going, who the hell are you lot? So there's definitely, you can go and have a quick look on the websites, and I would encourage you to do so. So you can go to www.salesgeek.world, and that is our global website, which talks and shows you opportunities of franchises globally around the world. We are currently in 3 continents, 12 countries, and there are 65 of us spread around the world. Combined, collectively, we have 1,450 plus years of sales excellence and sales operations experience, and over 950 years specifically around sales leadership experience. So we know a thing or two when it comes to sales and sales operations. Sales Geek itself, a franchise operation based out in the UK and operating around those countries, as I've just said. And we literally have just opened up in Malaysia, Singapore, and hot off the press is Mongolia. Who knew, right? You need sales training, sales operations in Mongolia. Why not? So our specialities, what are we famous for? So there's a number of things that we go into a business to resolve, to support, and to help organizations with. And that's everything from one-man bands, whether you're the smallest of small operations, fresh out of a business college, fresh out of your employment, maybe you decided to do something for yourself. So you're a solopreneur trying to get going, all the way through to the biggest of multinational organizations. Sales Geek works across the depth and breadth of all of those types of clients. There's no sector, no market, no sort of space that we haven't operated in. Everything from defense, pharmaceutical, retail, operations, construction, IT services, you name it. We're involved in most of those organizations. And the things that we're famous for supplying, number one, fractional leadership. It depends on the language you'd like to use, but some people like the term fractional, interim. We prefer the term part-time. And the reason why we use the term part-time leadership is because we're there in your corner as a sales director. We'll be there for the whole month, but part-time is because they're only the days that you might have retained us for. So it's a retained service. We'll come into the organization and you might work with us for 2 or 3 days a month. And we might be with you for several months. We might be with you for several years. The average tenure of our service globally right now is 2 to 3 years. So when people engage with us for our part-time sales director service, they're in it for the long haul because they recognize the gap in their business model to have an expert of that level in the business. So part-time, interim, fractional sales leadership, whatever language you want to use, we're very famous for that, and we supply them around the world. Secondly, it's mentoring, and very specifically sales mentoring. So that's slightly different to coaching. Anyone and everyone can be a coach, and there's nothing wrong with that. We use very good and very diligent coaching practices, but mentoring is very different and the difference predominantly being mentoring comes from within the discipline of which you are going to mentor, i.e. sales and sales leadership. So if you use any of our boys and girls, whether it's going to be Jay, Ben, or Brian, or any of the team out in the US or anywhere else around the world, not only are you going to get their expertise, their knowledge, their understanding of what it is they can bring to your team, your individuals, and your operation, but you have access through them to that 1,400 plus years of expertise globally around the world right now. And that means you can tap into any sort of questions that something local might not be able to answer for you. So mentoring is a really core part of what we do, and we're super famous for it. And the last two things, sales training, of course. Sales training has been around since anyone could stand up and point at a wall and do a drawing. So I think cavemen were doing sales training thousands of years ago. Someone etched around a hand and someone pointed to that and told everyone what that was. Training started pretty much way back then. It's evolved a little bit over the time. We put the science and psychology into training, and sales training and sales for non-sales and sales leadership training as well. And we've got a lot of stuff that you'd find very interesting when it comes to the most modern practices to sales and sales enablement. So have a look around that. And finally, we're very famous for our diagnostics. So the analysis side of what we do, both at the human capital level, understanding what goes on at the human side of things, and also at the business and business operations side. So quite a lot under the hood. It's all wrapped up into a very nice franchise and lots of products and services that you boys and girls might be interested to take out to your business community. And as Jay said, it's about getting out and working with small businesses. We work with big businesses, as we've articulated, but the core growth of all of our geeks globally, it's about working with small businesses. So my first question, open doors, anyone can answer. Why small businesses for you guys? Why did you think, coming from big corporate backgrounds as you have done, and small and medium size, and I know that you guys have straddled all of those areas, what's the interest to supporting small local businesses? Why do you want to go there?
Yeah, I'll start. I think for me, and it's probably a different answer than it was close to 2 years ago when I started my Sales Geek, business. I'll be in March. I'll be at 2 years. I should have added that earlier. But I think there's a couple things. One, just selfishly, I've got years of expertise, experiences I've had that I want to put into practice, and I want to make an impact. I want to make a difference out there, and I want to help. And as I was in larger companies, great roles, great money, et cetera, but it's harder to see the tangible impact you're making on the business, but also on the people. And that's probably where I get the greatest joy out of being a sales leader or doing anything operationally in the business, is seeing the impact I can make on people and I can help them make on themselves. So kind of as that backdrop, what I see in the small and the medium business space, and for me, that's probably 1 million to 20 million, 1 to 30 scaling, although I certainly work with a few that are smaller than that. It really comes back to, these are people that want my help. They understand they can benefit from what I and others like me can do. And so it's not just I'm trying to fight uphill against a wall every day. There's plenty of those battles, but going where people actually can use the experience and you can make an impact has been just a game changer for me. So that's really what my answer very clearly, would be on that one.
Very good. Anyone else?
Good. Yeah, no, that's awesome, Jay. My whole career was a lot of big companies, like 17 years of Black & Decker, but the last decade has been with more small business. So I was kind of the earliest sales guy in a tech startup. And so I just really got to feel kind of the energy of a small company and how many people are affected by revenue and how much gets done with a good sales team, right? It's the engine of small business success. And what I've learned prior to and then here is that a ton of CEOs come from a lot of different backgrounds. They're product guys, they're engineers, they're different people. And the sales discipline is always, I kind of get it enough to start a business. But they were just like, when I work with them or worked in the small business sector or even with Sales Geek, like they totally appreciate what you bring to the table, right? Your experience level, what you got done in the previous world, and they just feel confident that they can trust you to kind of help move them along. And I've really enjoyed that part of it. It's been great.
Very good. What about you, Ben?
Yeah, and I'll add to it. There's a personal connection for me because I grew up where my father was a small business owner. So I got to see what life can be like when business is performing and doing well. And I've also seen what life can be like when it's a challenge and it's a struggle. And business owners have to make a really tough decision of supporting employees and making really tough choices. So I've lived that experience. I know what it feels like. Being in the family that is in a business that is struggling. So there's that personal touch for me. And then as I mentioned a little bit earlier, I started my career working with small businesses, and I found so much pleasure and joy in seeing their growth and their development and see their business grow things to the next level. And I really wanted to get back into that after spending a lot of time, always constantly bringing numbers that are performing, but never satisfied a board of directors, never satisfied Wall Street. It was always what's next, and there was never seemed to be that appreciation that I felt for small businesses. So for me, it was really good to be back in a role and an environment where that appreciation is seen and felt every day.
Good. I'm going to put all of you on the spot and ask you a quick question. So yeah, you might have to get Google out now, start Googling stuff. Right. How many businesses are there in America right now, today, as of October 2025? What do you reckon? Who wants to go with a number? We're at round numbers. Anyone? It's like tumbleweeds.
That's
6.5 million. How's that?
I went with 45. Any advances up or down of that?
I was going to guess 25 million was my guess.
Okay, it's 34 million. 30 as of October 2025, registered currently in the US today, there are 34 million businesses. So let's go play some more games. How many of those businesses are under 50 employees? So what I'm trying to get to is the small businesses, right? How many of them are?
98% of them probably.
You're not far away. So by the pure definition of how the US categorizes businesses in SME space, and we in the UK have a similar thing. So we in the UK consider an SME to be under 250 employees, which is, I think, a stupid number. But anyway, and you're a similar number to ourselves. But if you go by the USA definition, it would be 99.6% of those businesses are classified as an SME. However, if you go by employee count and under, so let's go with 49 employees and under, there are 16 million businesses in the USA that have under 50 people serving them. All right. Now, last question. How many of those people, of that 16 million, were started a new business last year? How many of those are net new into the US economy from 2023 into 2024? So they're now counting into 2025. So how many of those were net new last year? How many businesses start?
I'm looking at Becky to answer that one. She's got all the
I think Becky's now suddenly just like furiously texting me going, I don't bloody know. What are you asking me about?
Right.
So
at least 10 million of them.
1.6 million businesses were incorporated between 23 and 24 that feed into 25 numbers. So I'm just going to riff off the US stats. How many of those businesses, so I'm going to jump back a couple of years prior to that, so the 22 into 23 year that feed into the 24 year, which then get counted. How many of those 1.2, and I think there was 1.1 in the year prior to that, were incorporated, new businesses incorporated? How many failed inside their first year? 40%.
Yeah.
40% of all businesses that were incorporated in the US failed inside 12 months. And it's estimated that 60% will fail inside 3 years. All business in all industry, globally, regardless of who you are, fail for a combination of 2 reasons. There's lots of reasons underneath it, but you can filter them all up to 2 core reasons. And that's because a business runs out of competency and they run out of cash. So everything else feeds underneath that, right? And we see that all the time, that people start a dream, start an idea, start a concept, or be running businesses. They run into, they've got their passion for their business, serving their local community. They might have aspirations to be regional, national, international, etc. But they run out of competency at some point on their journey. And they run out of competency in one massive area most of the time, the sales arena. Right? Because they can't sell their way through a problem. And what we know at Sales Geek is every business globally, again, there's no limits to this, and roundabout currently 2024, 2025 numbers, there's almost 500 million businesses that are registered. And this is registered businesses, there are way more that are unregistered businesses in the globally right now, of which 99.2% of them are all under 50 employees. So it tells you a lot. And every single business that operates in the world today, there are no exceptions to this position, will have a sales challenge at least once in their financial year. Most businesses will look internally to themselves to solve the sales challenge. And if they can, I don't know, start a new campaign, reduce a price, employ someone, whatever those challenges are, they might try and solve that. But for most businesses, they hit a ceiling and they hit the competency wall. And when they hit that wall, often they then run out of cash because they can't solve the problem quick enough. And the likes of Sales Geek and all of these boys and girls here today are here to solve those problems. And what I probably I'm trying to echo in a very sort of elongated way, is working with the small businesses is the lifeblood of all global economy. So if you want America to be great again, if you want America to be pumping on all cylinders and being the most hardcore economic powerhouse on the planet, you have to support small and local business, because the big businesses do add up, sure they do, but without your small micro businesses, you have no global economy. We're the same here in the UK. So I think that ambition to bring your skills, your capability of years served in many different disciplines is a noble thing, right? And I think businesses out there should chomp at the bit to grab it. To know it was a bit of a preach there. I don't know why that came out. Sorry about that. So let me ask you a question, Brian, if I may. What's the sort of things you see when you're out in industry and you're out in your local community? What's the sort of challenges? What are sort of people saying to you? Oh, this is what's going on in my business. These are the things that has affected that together you sort of encounter out in the field.
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes in a couple of different varieties, but I'll just give you kind of a couple of examples of clients and customers we've talked to over the last couple of weeks, right? And I think this is really indicative of kind of where we're at in the calendar year, as well as we're kind of coming to the end of 2025. One of my clients is like stagnant growth, right? We can't keep growing the way we've grown in the past. How do we grow outside our core customers that we've developed and we have good relationships with, but they're trying to reach out and go, how can we find new customers? And that is a consistent conversation across most of my customers I talk to, most of the businesses I talk to, but it's how do I find new customers? How do I do that efficiently? And how do I do that in a way that is productive for my organization? So I think that's number one. I think the other one, which was interesting last week, is hyper growth with no controls in the sales organization, right? We're selling to everybody. There's no organization on how we sell. And sometimes that leads to really poor profitability with customers. And so this kind of hyper growth has led one of my clients to like growing so fast, but on the bottom line, not growing as strong. And so they see that as not a possibility, but a reality of their world that they need to get cleaned up very quickly as they go into 2026. So those are two really kind of near-term things we've talked about, or I've talked about with clients lately. But yeah, I think those are two I'm hearing.
Cool. What about Jay, Ben? Any sort of, what are you finding out in industry today?
Yeah, a lot of my conversations, similar to what Brian said, have been around how navigating a more complex, difficult sales cycle. There's been some challenging economic headwinds here in the US that has reduced spend, that has reduced authority, and has sort of increased risk aversion for some businesses. And if they're selling B2B, they're learning that there's a lot more hoops they have to jump through, a lot more approvals, a lot more people involved in the sales cycle. So a lot of my conversations is about how to be effective at navigating a new environment. They used to be able to just have auto renewal, or they meet with someone and they have a certain approved budget in order to go spend in certain areas. And now those things are disappearing, and it's becoming a lot more complicated to get deals closed. So a lot of my conversations is about helping businesses understand what has changed, why it's changed, and then how to navigate it effectively. As decision makers are just harder to get to nowadays than they used to be.
Yeah. It's interesting listening to what you're finding out in the fields in Texas, Colorado, and the places that you're operating in today. They are no different to what I talk to people about in Blackburn. No different. And I'm pretty sure it's no different to what Naranjan talks about when he's in Kuala Lumpur or wherever he's operating at the particular time. So it's a global thing. Let me just ask you a quick question, guys. So big corporate backgrounds. Did you ever think you could or couldn't do this? Was there ever a thought in your heads that, like, crikey, yeah, I've done all this, I've done this background. Did you think I could be a geek or not be a geek? Was there ever a thing in your head where you thought that?
I'll tell you, James, for me, where it really popped in my head was when I went to the startup after I left Dell. And, again, I mentioned I had 17 different roles, and you do a lot of things. And I loved the time there, had a lot of great experiences. But when I got to that startup and we were, for example, going through a SPAC process, which I'm not going to go into details what that is, but very complicated financial transaction that I shouldn't have known anything about, and immediately got dumped into my plate to build a 5-year forecast. And so I started doing it. And what I realized, there was 4 or 5 other things they dumped in my lap to go work on, which now I'm grateful for. And I realized I had a bunch of experience that I had built in those different positions and roles and experiences. I ran the Microsoft business for Dell. That was one set of parameters. Well, those things helped me build that out. I just hadn't taken the time to really document my experiences. I'd always thought about job titles. And so, to your question, no, I hadn't thought about, could I do this, because I'd been siloed into this mindset of, oh, I'm a sales director at a big company, or I'm a regional executive, or whatever, I'm a senior vice president of sales. Not, I have a broad skill set I can go apply to a lot of different places and make an impact. So that was a really eye-opening experience. So when I left that company and got approached by, several of the CEOs in that space wanting me to do the same thing for them that I did for their company, it hit me really hard that, okay, A, you guys can't afford to do what I did there, and they shouldn't have either. Knowing what I know now, I wouldn't have done it. I would have brought in a fractional person or an interim person, because what they needed was process and structure and some strategy with some help, but they had people that could do the work. So no, I didn't see myself in that lens, because I had gotten trapped into a world of, hey, I'm bored, but I'm making a lot of money, and I'm honestly making too much money to pick up and leave. And I'd gotten so good at my job, I could sometimes do it in 30% of the time, even though in that 30%, I was still probably better than most people in the role. But that's not challenging, and it's not rewarding. And at some level, that starts to weigh on you. So I'm getting way into the psyche of it, but it's very liberating to have the ability to earn your own dinner and know that you're making an impact. And so,
yeah. Brian?
Yeah, and a little bit different path than what Jay went through. The 10 years working with some small companies here in Colorado, I think just kind of taught me that my breadth of experience from that bigger companies really played well, and that was exciting to me. I could see that I could play in a lot of different facets of the business, maybe in some ways, maybe a small general manager kind of play, and for the last maybe 5 or 6 years, I was like, how am I ever going to go take this and do something with it and run my own business? Because I've always had this little itch to go do my own thing. But I laugh with a lot of people. I just didn't know what that was, right? Was I going to run a coffee shop? Was I going to, what was I going to start, right? Because my background was just being a sales and marketing guy. And so, I started playing around with this fractional space even prior to Sales Geek, and it just kind of got me going, hey, there's something here. I like what Jay said. There's something really cool around earning you're doing your own thing. Kind of, there's an energy behind that that's super exciting. It can be challenging for sure, but it was I found a different kind of enjoyment out of my professional life that I hadn't seen in a long time. And when you start working with clients and they're starting to enjoy what you're doing and what value you're bringing, it just started snowballing for me. And that's kind of what got me even more momentum when I found you guys at Sales Geek.
Very good. Very good. I think Becky's got a question.
Yeah, so you kind of touched on it a little bit there, which is great. So why is it that you did decide to join and become a geek as opposed to going at it on your own or joining with another sales franchise business? Because I know it's quite big in the US, isn't it? Essentially what we do.
It's the British accents just sounds so smart to me. And
100%.
so I learned that from the Dyson vacuum guy early. He just sounded really good. And so I just appreciated a good British accent. But all kidding aside, when I was doing my own thing, Becky, I found a couple things that were really missing. I've always tried to step away and kind of work in the business, work on the business, right? And when I found what I was doing was working, but it lacked structure. It lacked some of the kind of classic fundamentals of a business that I recognize I could have gone and build it myself over time. But I was like, that will take me a long time to do. And it wasn't what I'm good at. And I think that was what I was really honest with myself on, is that, yeah, I could go do it. I could go build a brand. I could go build some products. I could go do all of the things that make a really good, sound business. But I was really honest with myself. What I'm really good at is being a sales guy and working with companies. And so that was that real friction point of my small business that I was doing, and kind of going, it just wasn't going to match what I needed moving forward. And so I started looking for ways to bring more structure to my vision. And that led me to Sales Geek. And certainly they kind of checked the boxes for me and in those areas.
Amazing.
Yeah, and I'll jump on there on a kind of similar thread. I think all those things that Brian shared, for me, I look at it now as I kind of go backwards and look at my decision, close to 2 years ago. I feel even stronger about it. What I originally went into it knowing, yes, I can do this, because I'd started to do a little of this, type work. And to Brian's point, I don't want to do a lot of that back end work. Now, that being said, I could build it out. But what I really have come to appreciate about being in the geek world is, if you really boil this down, we're in the trust business. People don't buy, this isn't like a chocolate bar where you go, I really want a Cadbury chocolate bar or a Nestle chocolate bar. You're thinking, I need help, and I need to trust that somebody can sit in my company and deliver the results that I'm looking for and can help guide me and do the other thing. Because these CEOs and these business leaders put us in the inner circle. And that's a very hallowed position in my book. And I take it very seriously. But at the same time, I have to have fun. I'm a social person. I want to enjoy the work I do. I like to make fun of myself and other people. I mean, I have to have a place to do that. So some of the things I really enjoyed the most about being an important person, if you want to think of that at Dell or other places, was I had a network of people around me. I had a community. I had other things where there was some relevance and importance. So my concern with doing it myself, Becky, was that how hard is it going to be for me to build something that allows me to still be social? Yeah. Now, there are networking groups. There are a lot of good places, which I certainly am part of today. There's even professional development groups for us as business founders that are out there that are really good. But nothing replaces that community of me calling, Ben and saying, hey, what are you doing? What's working? What's not working? And we do the same things for different people. So the conversations we have are when I call the guys, they call Davey over in Scotland to hear his amazing accent. We have great conversations about what we're doing, and those are really close to the best for what I do. So it's really meaningful. And I think the other part is just to that point is being able to take that community and expand it a little bit further. So I wanted something behind all of that. And then again, getting into the tangible business pieces, I would just say this. I really love now that I'm 1.5 years, 2 years in, that Sales Geek allows me to bring the expertise I have and allows me to bring my network into it. So I have a background in high tech. I have a background in big teams and in different areas. Some people have a background in pharmaceuticals. Some people have a background in others. They can bring that into the Sales Geek family. They can grow their business initially, but Sales Geek's going to help me and others to build a community around where I live, because I have a huge network nationally. I had no network locally. And so this is a way to help coach you through building that locally so you have a sustainable business on multiple fronts. But more importantly, I can leverage things in my expertise area, but when I get outside of my swim lane, I have geeks all over the world I can lean in on to help me guide, because again, that client's trusting me. So if you kind of pull that back, Sales Geek becomes a great partner. It's not so much a franchise to me as it is an addition to how I support my customers. And these are Sales Geek customers, they're my customers, but Sales Geek becomes a place to extend what I do. And then maybe selfishly, it gives, I think, Brian, you mentioned this, it gives some structure, because at the end of the day, we're all great sales leaders. We're not always the best at structuring ourselves. And so having a process and a system behind us that is flexible enough for us to meet a customer at a need, but also maybe rigid in some circles to help keep us in check so we do the best job for our clients. That's kind of where I've landed, maybe that I didn't have a year ago in terms of why I really kind of love the organization.
Thank you. Very good. Ben, what about you?
Yeah, I reiterate a lot of what Jay and Brian said. But when as Becky pointed out, there are some other companies that operate models a little different here in the U.S. than what Sales Geek does, but I kicked the tires on a few of them out there. And I think one thing that really stood out to me when I was exploring the different options is when I talked to the other companies, it felt like they didn't want me to join the organization because they looked at me as additional competition of other people that are going to be going out and calling on, all the leads and trying to take business. Whereas coming into Sales Geek, it felt very collaborative in nature. And it felt like we all had the mentality of there is enough businesses out there that need our help and support that we can all support each other and collaborate. So that felt very different for me. It's a very different mindset than a lot of others that are out there, which I naturally gravitated to. I like to collaborate more than compete with my peers. So having the ability to do that was great. And then as I started to peel back and look at the quality of content and materials from a training standpoint, the methodology that's used from a your sales director standpoint, just really deep diving into the weeds of what a day in the life of a geek looks like and what you're actually executing and what you're doing to provide. I was really blown away with the quality of information that we have at our fingertips to be able to help businesses. I talk to Brian about this all the time. It's like, it would probably take me 2 to 3 years just locked away in a bunker somewhere to come up with every single thing that I have at my fingertips that I could start using day one. If I was to try to go doing this on my own, I would have bled cash and never been able to make it because I wouldn't have had access to all the tools and resources and people and everything that I have. I think a great story of how I realized right away that Sales Geek was the right decision for me was one of the first clients I got engaged with came to me and they raised their hand for something that I was not an expert at, which was sales compensation plan design. It had been a long time since I've designed a sales compensation plan. So I just put out there to the 65 global geeks and says, okay, who's done this recently and who's got some good feedback of how to help? And multiple people raised their hand and said, yep, I'm an expert in this. Let me help you. They jumped in, got on with the client, helped me through everything. Client came back completely satisfied with it. And if I had to try to figure that out on my own, I'm not sure I would have been successful. But the fact that I had geeks that were didn't look at me as competition, but looked at it as collaboration and said, yeah, I'm an expert here. Let me jump in and help. Didn't even have to offer anything. They just were willing to share their expertise. It was an incredible experience, and I could not be happier with my time with Sales Geek.
Lovely.
James, got to throw a point on top of it. I just wanted, in terms of like here in the U.S., I mentioned we're in the trust business. There are a few other companies that do what we do, and they do really good work out there. But it's any client I've worked with, I can tell you, none of them are going out going, oh, I need to have that company. Mm-hmm. So that's where I go back to what's the real value in having Sales Geek alongside me, behind me, in front of me, depending on where I'm going in the marketplace. And you touched on it, Ben, is that, when you look at the Sales Geek universe, I think every geek that comes in, which is why we don't take everybody in, has a mindset of this isn't about a proprietary framework that I have to rigidly do it exactly this way. It's about a dynamic environment where the arsenal of things we have to pull from changes and improves every day because other geeks are looking at it from a customer-centric perspective. How do I help our clients? And not like, oh, I developed this special compensation model. It's now mine and it's locked in. And no, it's available for us to share amongst the community when someone needs it. Why? Because we want to have a customer-centric mindset. And that's what I think sets us apart in a lot of ways, because it truly is a geek community across the globe and it'll just get better. Which again, a lot more dynamic nature to me is a benefit. So sorry, Jim, just wanted to throw that in.
No, that's fine. So it's good. So that brings me on a little bit. I think there's some sentiment in there, and I want to capture a couple of sound bites, if I may, if people are watching this. Is if you're, I think what I'm listening to, you get to a point in your lives, I think, and if you want to go, James, it's not what I said, feel free to correct me. You get to a point in your life where you've either worked up, changed, gone wide, gone breadth, but you're working for other people, and there's a spark inside you that says you want to carve your own destiny somehow, somewhere. You want to live that kind of dream, and then you've got an opportunity to look out. Do you do something yourself? Do you go and work in another company or something, or do you buy into someone, a franchise? And that's where we've got ourselves to. So I think we've echoed the point. There's some support there. Yeah, you're right. 65 geeks around the world, and we love helping. I think that there's something about the Sales Geek culture is about everyone likes to brag about what they know, and that's massive IP, right? There's a lot of really big brains out in our community, and we do love to share. And I think if if you're thinking about making that jump, one of the things you will definitely have is a lot of support. You're going to have support from Brian, from Jay, from Ben, from myself, from Becky, from everyone else that you'll ever come to meet around the world. If you're ever unsure about how to deal with a situation, what you might do with a client, what you might do to find a client or whatever, you only have to ask, and one of us will definitely know, if not more than 10 of us will know the answer to that, and you'll have some support. So just riffing off the support bit a little bit more, if I may, what was the experience like for you guys coming here to the UK, right? Because for the three of you, you all flew over here. You had I want to say amazing week in Blackburn, but was it not? And how was the support and stuff to get back out there and get going for you guys?
Well, James, I'll jump in. I was there last year, beginning of July 2024, and everybody who I had spoken to prior to said, "Oh, you're going to love it. It's going to be awesome." And you're kind of like, okay, trying to kind of get my expectations in line. Everything had been really good so far with my onboarding, but you guys along this lines just continue to exceed the expectations of a I feel very much part of a small growing business, right? I'm not just somebody that just bought something. I feel part of it, and you guys made me feel very part of Sales Geek, the Sales Geek story. I feel like I'm part of the story. There's a beautiful mural that is on in the Geek bunker there in Blackburn that just talks about growth, right? From your small initial office to now where you're at. And there's a spot there with Brian Ewing's name on it, right? Now as part of the story. And I really like that, right? It made me feel as part of, I joined not at the beginning of the book, but kind of at the, kind of in the first couple of chapters of this book. And the whole team continues to make me feel that way. But that was certainly felt, and I saw that. Also, you helped us celebrate 4th of July over there, a big American holiday. Not so much of a big holiday in the UK, but you guys celebrated with us for our independence from the tyranny of the of that period. But you guys celebrated 4th of July with us. We thought that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, we have to make up for lost some men somewhere along the lines, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'll jump in from my perspective. I can be a very harsh judge because I've run onboarding programs for a big part of my career, and satisfying the one who's done it a lot is always one of the most challenging efforts. But I will honestly say it's probably the best onboarding experience I've ever witnessed. Just the amount of attention to detail that was put in, the flow that was designed in the onboarding process, the making you feel comfortable and ready and supported, as Brian pointed out, I think was incredible. One of the other things I think that's really important to point out was when I was running onboarding programs, getting executives and leadership to want to participate in that was pulling teeth. It was really difficult. And if you're lucky, you can maybe get the CEO to show up for maybe 5 minutes to do a quick little, wave and smile and leave. Whereas compared to Sales Geek, James was very heavily involved in all of our entire onboarding. And Richard, the CEO, was taking you to his neighborhood and showing you around what life is like in Blackburn. So it really does feel, and I know it's a very cliche thing to say that, your job is your family. And usually when you hear that, it means run away because it's an overused phrase, but I mean it with all sincerity and honesty that this really did feel like that you're walking into an environment where you're being welcomed into someone's home and they make you very much appreciative of the support and everything that they give you. I could not give a higher enough praise for the onboarding experience there in Blackburn. Just really well designed, put together, and you walk away feeling very supported by the team.
Excellent. Thank you for that. That was very nice words.
Yeah,
and sorry, go on, Joe.
I'm not so positive. I'm still mad at you about the jet lag. You didn't warn me about that, but
yeah, you had a bit of that, didn't you?
So, not until the third day, and then I was like like a zombie walking through. But I agree with what they said. I think it's well thought out. One of the things that I took away from it, if you get past the actual onboarding, which was certainly great, but was one of the things I see, this because, and Brian, you alluded to this earlier in terms of buying a coffee franchise or something else. There's a lot of franchises out there that, and majority of them probably are in areas where you may not have expertise. And so it's really important there's structure to everything that you do. Well, and this is a little bit different because you're not going to be a sales geek unless you are a sales geek, unless you already are a sales leader, because we are the product at some point, because we're delivering great products and solutions we have, but ultimately we're at the front of that. All of the geeks are. So I think it's really important that every geek gets bought into what is their mission statement, what is the position go. And so, Sales Geek has one overarching, which is to change the way the world perceives sales. I saw that and like, okay, do they really believe this? Is this hokey? Is this, a little bit goofy, which everyone in corporate is goofy, which I loved that. But what I really took away from it, James, and I don't think I've shared this with you, is, being able to meet so many other geeks that came in for different things while we were there. I got to see that those people actually were able to internalize what that mission statement meant to them in their own business, because we're business owners that work together. So, your statement may not be exactly mine, but I found a way to make sure mine fits within that. And again, that's a little nuance, but you don't see that very often. It's very hard to tie those things together for people. And I saw that for literally 24 people that popped into HQ while I was there. And they all had a very clear answer on what that meant to them. And it aligned really well into changing the way the world perceives sales, which helped me get a lot more comfortable. Because if you remember, I hadn't even filled out all the rest of my stuff then. That was a path I could follow, and it allowed me to be an individual, but also be part of a cool team. So that really is what I walked away with. And the accents and the food and the scotch were lovely. But,
there's a fair bit of that, isn't there?
Yeah, for sure.
If you do decide to join us and you join any of the team as part of the scale-up operation, you do fly to the UK for your first week of onboarding. There are 6 weeks of training that follows after that. And then there's monthly training, as these guys all know. We've got the next one tomorrow, actually, Friday. First of a new journey of new training for everybody. There's a lot of food and a lot of alcohol involved. So do tip your hat. If alcohol is not your thing, we'll find you some other things. But the last thing I just want to say there is, yes, we do like to support everyone around the world for their festivals and their holidays. Currently, we are supporting our friends and colleagues in India and abroad for this Diwali. So it's Diwali right now. So it's the Festival of Light, and we are all Festival of Light here. We also are gearing up for Halloween, because we do love a bit of Halloween here in the UK as well, to still camp out with our American friends. We're not quite as good at it as you lot are, but it's something anyway. Yeah, that's it, exactly. Last question I've got is just to wrap this up as a bit of a circle. And we'll do a few more of these for others to get a bit more of a sense of what's going on. So we're coming into, what's this now, our Q3. Some people that'll be Q4, depending on where your financial year is. But we're heading into Christmas. What, 9 weeks, 8.5 weeks into the Christmas break, something like that? Yikes already. So 2026 is around the corner. And this year has gone as a flash. I'm sure you guys have felt the same thing. So let me ask the three of you, what's your plans? You're business owners, you're carving your own destiny. You're out there living that dream. You've got the support, you've got the help, you've got your business community. What's your personal aims and dreams, if you like, or what are you building towards for 2026?
Yeah, I'll jump in and start. It's been a really exciting couple of months here in Colorado. I run the southwest part of the country, the U.S. for Sales Geek. I live in Colorado, and Ben, who is in Denver, is part of the Colorado team, and we've really gotten a lot of traction over the last couple of months, and I think that comes from a lot of different things we're testing and driving here. We just launched a new website. We moved into a new office here locally, which is kind of a really big deal. I think it just shows our force and intent around continuing to drive this fractional story here in Colorado. But James, when I think about 2026, I think it's going to be a year where we're probably going to onboard probably 5 to 6 new geeks across multiple states. That's kind of a done deal in my mind. I think that's the pipeline's there. I think we've got the interest, and so I think that's going to go. I think we're going to continue to work on kind of local business development concepts, right? Ways for us to elevate our brand locally. It's a great brand, but not a lot of people know about it yet. So we're working on some really exciting things here locally through business networking, through just some really creative ideas to get Sales Geek kind of more top of mind to small, medium-sized businesses. And moreover, our whole goal is to be the best option when people want to go create a business consulting opportunity for themselves. We want to be the first option that answers those questions. How do I do this? How do I get up to speed quicker? How do I find, my financial, if I said freedom, but financial success story? Sales Geek is going to be the person in Colorado and the Southwest to really perform there. And that's kind of our vision, to be the number one, part of our market to do that. So that's where we're going.
Very good. Looking forward to that one. Jay?
Yeah, I'll go. So, I'm actually, it's a good timing or good, relevance to the conversation. Just got through doing 3-year planning cycle with one of my largest clients that is looking to basically double their business by 2028. And we have a plan to do that. And so when I look at my own business, that company, we had put a lot of things in place in 2025 to set the table so that we could accelerate and scale in 2026. That's headcount, resources, et cetera. And my business, I'd say 2025 has been more of a figuring out what I have on my hands, and we've had a ton of growth in Sales Geek Austin. 2026 will be for me layering in those pieces to be able to step up and scale and have that business doubled in the next 2 years. But 26 will be about putting investments into, potentially adding people to help us drive that, adding, additional, capabilities in there, and then expanding kind of where we help others in that space. So it's a little bit broad, but it's about planting seeds next year because we have some foundation to build off of at this point, and I'm pretty excited about that.
Brilliant. Excellent. Ben, finally for you, what's the thoughts for 26?
Yeah, I think as Jay pointed out, timing of this question is great because similarly, I'm having conversations right now with my clients of what 2026 is going to look like. And while we work for ourselves and we are business owners, I also like to think that I work for the businesses that I work with too. So it's kind of both sides. So for me, I'm measuring success on the performance that I help drive for my clients in order to grow their business as well. So my heavy focus in 2026 is committing to my clients of where they want to take their business, where they want to go, and help make them hit those goals and achieve what they want to achieve. Because I really measure my success based on how well my clients perform and how well they do. So this next year, I'm really locked in to the people that trust me to be a part of their business. I want to over deliver and expand and give them exactly what they're looking to do to grow their business. And by way of that, the giver's gain philosophy of if I help others grow, then I will grow along with that. So really, that's my focus for 2026.
Perfect. Becky, I think you got one final question, and then we'll wrap up there.
Yeah. So obviously 2025 has been a year of, especially for year 3, a lot of wins, a lot of growth along the way. But with that also comes a lot of lessons. What advice would you have for somebody who is considering, becoming a geek?
Yeah, I'd say take stock of where you're at. The biggest thing for me, a couple of quick lessons on that, I guess I would say is, transitioning from running the business and being important in the business is very different than being the business. And one's not better than the other, but you definitely have to go from a bunch of reactive work that's around you to getting to a mindset, I'm going to go create the work and then go deliver the work. So you need to have a work ethic to that. And that took me a while to reinvent myself for that. Some of it is also understanding your network isn't going to just hand things to you day one. You need to plant seeds and find people at the right time. Just again, I know it sounds crazy, but build a sales pipeline, just like we teach all of our people to do. So going back to being the business versus leading the business. And that's a tough mind shift. Because, for me, everyone's got a different reason. For me, the biggest piece was being an alternative to retiring and being able to grow something and have fun doing it, because I have to fix things. It's in my DNA. If I'm not fixing things and solving problems, then I kind of get a little stir crazy. And then there's mistakes I made along the way that, understanding what your potential mistakes could be. For mine, a big one was talking about Dell too much and not realizing that none of that matters to a smaller company, except what did I learn from that experience and what resources do I assess here and what could we apply that was from there to here. But again, talking too much about the other doesn't really matter. It's really about what can you do for those people, because it's been very eloquently put. They're trusting us to be in their business, and we have an obligation to help them grow, and or to be a truth teller and tell them when they're seeing things, when we're seeing these, that they don't. And that's also one of my favorite parts of the role. But yeah, it's really just realizing that you have to be the business. It's not just leading the business. We're not walking into something. You have to go create it as part is with a ton of help behind you, but there's still work involved.
Yeah, I'll piggyback on what Jay said there, because I think it's not easy. I will tell everyone that it's not easy, but it is rewarding and it is fulfilling. So if you're expecting to just kind of sit back and wait for things to roll in, you're going to be waiting a long time. But if you're the type of person that likes to go out there, make connections, meet with people, make things happen, consistency and effort pay off. You have to be consistent with your time. You have to be consistent with your effort. You always have to be out there connecting with people, and the right doors will open for you. But if you're not willing to do the work, those doors won't open. So I would highly recommend that anyone who wants to do this, you have to really want to do this, and you have to be motivated. But the great thing is motivation comes from seeing the victories and the wins that you have along the way. And that just fulfills and pushes your motivation even further. Every day you sort of learn where the right steps versus the wrong steps. And you just have to kind of take the journey and know that the path in front of you is never completely clear, but just know that you keep walking, that path is going to show itself to you, and you're going to be very well rewarded at the end of that path.
I like that one. Very good. Thank you. Brian?
That's a good one, Ben. Yeah, came up in a call a couple of weeks ago, and they talk about somebody, a sales geek in Lubbock, Texas, guy by the name of Tipton, talked about sales being a team sport, and it's very much team sport. And what has been a real learning this year is the leverage of team and a leverage of knowledge, right? And sometimes I think as a solopreneur, who I am, right, coming out, you kind of put yourself in a box and go, I'll figure it out myself. And at the end of the day, that was real learning, right? The more you open yourself up to being honest about things you don't know, and things that you need, not only is it the Sales Geek community, but the small business community in general across the globe is a very, very helpful group of people. So every time it seems like I had a question this year about how would I do this or do this, you ask a few people, you start asking a few questions to the network, and before you know it, you got really good answers from your local business community to do that. And when I started doing that, my traction and my kind of the gear kind of shifted a little bit in a real positive way. So sales is a team sport. You need people around you to be successful. And I think that's what we're experiencing here with Sales Geek. And I only see that getting better and better as we go forward.
Lovely. Very kind words. Thank you very much for everyone. So I think for everyone watching, if you're watching live, if you're watching on replay and catch up, hopefully you've got a little bit of insight as to three of our amazing geeks, as to a little bit about their background, what drove them and motivated them to come in here. As Ben rightly said, it's not easy. Starting your own business, as we talked about, 1.2 million businesses started the year before, over 800,000 went out of business. Right, but run out of competency, run out of cash. But if you've got passion, if you're open to having support around you, if you're open to having people take you on a journey together, then you should be okay. And that's why people do franchising, whether you're doing it with us or whether you're doing it with anybody else. Franchise system is probably gives you a way bigger leg up than it is trying to do it on your own, as has been echoed by everybody else. So I just want to say thank you very much to my colleagues for being on today. My name is James, and I'm the Global COO. You can always reach out to me. Some email addresses up on there. Got a couple of upcoming events. If you're interested in that, we'll be reaching out to everyone anyway to say thank you for popping on today. So in November, we've got storytelling in sales and how to leverage storytelling. Sales is all about empathy and emotion and how to drive that without being so dry and facts and sort of blandly driven. So come and listen to the storytelling session. It's really good fun. And then in December and over into January, we're into the sales negotiation in modern era. It's following off a big session I did here in the UK, where we talk about the modern psychology in modern in negotiation skills. It's really good fun. So come and have a listen to that. And we've got more franchise discussions as well with more geeks from around the world. You can hear more from our American colleagues, some of our UK colleagues. And if you're really interested, which will be nothing more than complete giggles, come and have a listen to the team from Mongolia. They're absolutely amazing. So that's it from myself. That's it from Brian, from Jay, from Becky, and from Ben. I really want to say thank you very much for coming on. If I could ask my host just to stay on the call. But I hope you enjoyed today. Any questions, reach out. Becky would be delighted to talk to you. And we'll see you on the next one.